I was there, deep in the FNAF weeds, when Five Nights at Freddy's 4 was transitioning to Sister Location. And I still can't get over how wrong everyone was. Not only is Sister Location probably the most hated FNAF game currently from the Scott era, it is definitely the most misunderstood. I've never seen a community collectively dogpile an entry in a franchise that was actually good at worst and really good at best. I remember when this game was first teased, everyone immediately knew this was not going to be the same roller coaster we've ridden 4 times now. Speaking of 4, that's a pretty important place to start. FNAF 4 really soured the FNAF community. I remember PewDiePie ragging on the game because, you know, YouTubers being as they are, he was kind of pressured into playing it by the fan base. He didn't really care for the first one, so that's fine, you like what you like, but we all know people tend to base their opinions on that of their favorite creators, so it was a blow, regardless of the intention of it. That said, it's not like people didn't have genuine concerns. This was the 4th game in a row to use the whole stand in place and survive till 6 AM shtick that all the previous games did. So it made Five Nights at Freddy's look like a cash cow, and with the story turning into illiterate nonsense, things weren't looking too good there. But forget everything I just said, because then Sister Location came out. Alright, I've tried making this video before and nobody watched it. Let's try it again. So the opening of Sister Location shows us that... Nope, we're not even close to opening this game up, so buckle up, it's gonna be a lengthy one, bucko. So as previously stated, FNAF 4 didn't sit well, and it felt like the franchise was losing people. I was not one of those people. Okay, sure, FNAF 4 was the same formula as the first game, or the first 3 games, but it also gave us some of the best jump scares in the franchise to date with Bonnie and Chica. The critique of repetition didn't really matter because I liked what it was offering, and it would seemingly apply to those who also liked what it was offering. I also feel like this was the most objectively balanced game we'd gotten up to this point. Including things like a blind mode just kind of shows how well the game actually functioned. It was just a perfection of the formula, and I liked the formula. Now, I'm not denying that doing the same thing 4 times in a row wasn't a bit cash grabby in feel, because it did feel that way, even if that wasn't the intention. So all this to say is that I think people were fine waiting a little bit longer for the next game. Sadly, that's not exactly what happened. Alright, it's time to talk about something really important. The burnout of 87. This is what I call the repeated event that YouTubers constantly refer to when FNAF comes up in conversation. They got handed too much FNAF, they played too much FNAF, and they burned out on FNAF. So let me put this as plainly as possible. I do not care. I have heard YouTubers say this so many times that I am now getting burned out on them talking about FNAF burnout. So here's the reality of the situation that I've not actually heard anyone bring up. Would they have lost money and subscriber momentum taking a break from FNAF? Yes, that is not deniable. That is reality of YouTube. But do you really think Markiplier would have had to make some drastic career choices if he took a break from FNAF? No, of course not. He's Markiplier. YouTubers had the choice. They had sanity or money. They chose money by playing both FNAF and all the fan games that came out in between to keep up the hype cycle. So, yeah, no duh, that would burn you out. But I mean, it's not FNAF's fault, whether they'll admit that or not. It took until Secret of the Mimic, 10 years plus of FNAF content, for me to get burned out. Because I don't center my entire identity around a single game franchise. I mean, maybe I will with this channel, I don't know. But this is important context going into the next game because FNAF 4 is where fan games were really pumping, YouTubers were getting burnt, and naturally, the audience might be feeling it with them if they're getting frustrated. So I remember the buzz for Sister Location being kinda loud, but I also think it was the first time the hype felt inconsistent, maybe forced. Creators that benefited from FNAF's success were obviously singing the praises of like the teaser images that we got, but FNAF 4 was promoted as the final chapter, so what sense is a 5th game gonna make? So apparently it's a spin-off? Okay, so what does that mean for the game itself? Well, we would learn a little more in an extremely dope teaser trailer. Bro, don't tell me you didn't get goosebumps looking at these designs. The way the faceplates move, like all smooth, futuristic, makes them look advanced, but more dangerous because, you know, it's Five Nights at Freddy's. But we also learned one important detail. This was not a Survive Till 6 game. To look at the elevator in the trailer, the vents, your character's moving between places. That was a totally brand new thing for FNAF at the time. So the game didn't say it, but we were in for a ride. I was excited. And I don't think you could cap the hype cycle off any better without mentioning the absolute gem of Join Us for a Bite by JT Music. Why is this actually one of the best songs ever made though? Like seriously. To this day, it is their most popular song, I think. And keep in mind, JT has never made a hype song for any other FNAF, so I don't know if they were just excited for it or maybe they were just capitalizing on our excitement. I don't know. But Join Us for a Bite single-handedly took over the FNAF community and maybe even the internet, it felt like. This was both the loudest and the quietest hype cycle I've seen for a mainline FNAF game. They kind of just got more quiet over time. But regardless, it was a weird time to be a FNAF fan. Finally, on October 7th, 2016, Sister Location was released. Everyone played it on YouTube, and oh boy, we got lore for miles. This game was so jam-packed with lore that it was actively flowing out of MatPat's ears. And then, nothing. Yeah, so despite the fact that these animatronic characters and their designs really left an impression, people seemed kind of distant about Sister Location itself. I was deep in FNAF territory, and I couldn't even tell you what people thought about it. I mean, from how I've been talking, you could probably tell that I liked it. But Sister Location was gouged for its lore and kind of just left on the wayside. Then Pizzeria Simulator ended the story for the time, so everyone was focused on that for a bit. Ultimate Custom Night came out, celebration of gameplay, you know, finding out where Steel Wool was going to take the franchise, who Scott gave the franchise to, etc, etc. So Sister Location was kind of rushed through in a weird way. At least in the public consciousness. And after that, I have not heard a peep about anything Sister Location related that wasn't characters or lore. Until this thing came out. Okay, quick disclaimer, I have not seen this video. I don't know why it has a progress bar. I've literally never seen it before in my life. Maybe my mouse hovered over it, I don't know. I don't think it's a hot take to not want to watch an hour-long video of somebody tearing down a game you love. Maybe? That said, I'm not going to pretend I did watch it either, because I actually watched Oh Yeah content not realizing this was the same guy who I had seen a video of in my recommended like 100 times. I don't know how that happened. But regardless of not watching this lengthy video, I have created a obvious profile of his gaming preferences. He prioritizes gameplay over everything else. Honestly, cool. I don't really care how good the game's atmosphere is if I'm having a miserable time playing the game. Hey Silent Hill 2, how's it going? So that's an idea I can get behind. Now, if that were just his thoughts in a video, I wouldn't even really care. But it turns out this video went a little viral and even got the reaction from MatPat, or at least the tweet talking about it.
Recently, I think it's the Yeah channel who did like an hour-long review of Sister Location being like, I don't like that one. And I'm like, I never did either, so I'm glad that someone else is actually seconding me on that one.
So all of a sudden, everyone has an opinion on Sister Location. Well, darn tootin', it took y'all long enough. So that brings us back around to myself. Why am I even here? I'm here because I've never seen a game get so much hate for complete misrepresentation. Not even my beloved Halo Reach got it this bad. I'm here because I want to show you that Sister Location is actually amazing for what it's doing. I mean, no game's perfect, but my goodness, it's way better than everyone acts like it is. What's funny is I don't even need to play the game again. Like, I've played it so many times that I could probably defend it off memory. But since I need to watch footage for editing, I guess I'm playing it again second-handedly. But hey, that'll make it easier to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Night 1, let's do this. Finally. Immediately, it becomes obvious that this is indeed a spin-off. Almost an entire subgenre spin-off, actually. Like, the only thing this game has in common with the other games is that it's point-and-click, it's FNAF, and it was made in the same engine, I guess. And it has a custom night, I guess? Is that how low I'm reaching to compare it to the other games? So we start in an elevator of all places with the one, the only, hand unit.
It seems that you had some trouble with the keypad. I see what you were trying to type, and I will auto-correct it for you. One moment. Welcome, Eggs Benedict.
Dude, Andy Field is one of the best voices I've heard in a video game, period. But I'm gonna put a pin in that to stay on point. Did I just make a pun by accident? Okay, so this opening section, despite how simple it is very important in setting the tone of this game. As you just saw, this AI responder is not exactly reliable, so something as simple as typing in a keypad seems to elude this man's. So since he has established himself as shoddy help immediately, it sets an expectation, a feeling of safety that you should have that just isn't fully there, because he's just not reliable. But at the same time, this opening is awesome because it's just funny. Humor in a horror game doesn't detract, it actually amplifies, because your feeling of fight or flight has time to, settle down a little bit, reset, before picking the right moment to flare up again. But I am getting a little bit ahead of myself. So after a little context from Ham Unit about the place that we're working, we enter the maintenance crawl space. This room just sucks. I'm not talking about build quality, I'm talking about the fact that it's just wrong. Look at all these faces just staring at you. They don't move, but that doesn't really make them feel less weird. Okay, and this glass is not good. What is behind it?
Uh-oh. It looks like Ballora doesn't feel like dancing. Let's give her some motivation. Press the red button now to administer a controlled shock. Maybe that will put the spring back in her step.
Oh, cool. I hate that. I don't know if anyone else felt this their first time playing, but especially with these two vent covers being present, I don't trust this glass at all, especially when you see these guys. It just feels like the game tells you that it's safe, but it's just bare minimum at best. And to this day, I'm still convinced they could probably break this glass if they wanted to. It's just that they're mildly discouraged.
Let's motivate Funtime Foxy with a controlled shock.
Oh, that makes it even worse. Why? As if this glass felt unsafe to begin with, now we're intentionally shocking the monstrosities that look like they could rip your arms off like a Wookiee. And what's worse, it feels like they just know it's you doing it. I mean, you can't prove it, but those dead looks of innocence just aren't convincing. The hand unit then tells you to crawl through another vent to Circus Gallery.
Motion trigger, Circus Gallery vent.
How many different ways is this game going to make us feel unsafe within the first 5 minutes? I know this voice is just talking about us right now, but it sounds so much like it's going to tell you about a threat in the future, and I hate it. Remember when I was telling you about how that glass feels unsafe? Cool, so let's triple their total surface area on your screen and make you feel like you're in a display case, because Circus Baby may be the one in the cage, but it feels like you're the one being stared at through the dark. Again, you feel vulnerable regardless of what hand unit tells you. Oh great, and we're shocking her too. Lovely. Except she doesn't go back to the stage like the others did, and hand unit seems to think she did. So something is very clearly being communicated in this moment. Circus Baby is different. We don't know why yet, but she's a bigger threat than Ballora or Foxy. Thankfully, we don't have to figure that out tonight because hand unit lets us go home with another little funny bit.
We don't want you to leave overwhelmed, otherwise you might not come back. Please leave using the vent behind you, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Okay, so the soap opera scene where you get to eat popcorn while watching TV is perfect for pacing, but also weird. So in hindsight, there are like weird lore connections here, but we're not talking about that because whatever the intention was with this game's story has moved on years ago. That said, even if it had no connection to the lore, it would be kind of funny. The endless cope on Vlad's part is on a whole other level. It also took a long time for people to connect the lore, so for the purposes of this video, it's comedy meant to be a break between nights, and once again, great idea. Let your nervous system take a break so that you can get spooked again later. I feel like that's what Outlast's like in-between chase sections are trying to do, but the atmosphere doesn't match that, so it doesn't really work. I don't know, that was an off-script example, I don't know. Okay, so it took a while, but we're going to get back to the point of the video. So let's talk about the criticisms for a second. So you might have noticed that there's a distinctly large layer missing to the whole Night 1 discussion. A little thing called gameplay. There was exactly 0 challenge present on the first night, and according to people that don't like this game, that's just automatically a bad thing. So I don't think I need to state the obvious, but there's a lot of horror games out there meant to be more experiences. And I'm talking about games people actually like the Fears to Fathom games, or Doki Doki Literature Club. I've only played the free Fears to Fathom and the Ironbark Lookout, but they're basically experiences with like 1 or 2 scripted gameplay sections in them that serve as illusion of challenge. Now, if I played Ironbark Lookout again, obviously the terror would be extraordinarily reduced. It's almost like you're meant to play it one time or something. So yes, Sister Location falls under this umbrella of these kinds of games. And I know people probably don't want to hear this, but every FNAF game before this one is kind of the same way. I mean, what are you really going to get out of a second playthrough of Five Nights at Freddy's 1? Nothing. You already conquered the fears and done the challenge. The experience is over. Same with 2, 3, and mostly 4, because I play 4 for jump scares. Now there are indeed bad examples of this kind of game, like Layers of Fear, an 11-hour remake of getting jump scared over and over and over and over and over. I don't know how people like this game. I don't understand it. The Fears to Fathom games are like the perfect template to this style. Layers of Fear, the opposite. So they do what they do, they move on. Now Sister Location avoids being Layers of Fear by not letting any one section, joke, or tension point last too long. So experience games are like movies. You don't want to let the audience get bored of the same thing for too long. When horror movies are always at a tension point, or they don't have enough, it just gets stale after a while. I feel like this just isn't really that hard to understand. it is my firm opinion that Sister Location does this really well, as I will be demonstrating through the rest of this video. And I'll cap this off with a simple statement that I'll probably be repeating later anyways. I don't care if you don't like Sister Location, but don't lie to me about it. Don't tell me that being perfectly linear automatically makes it a bad game just because you want something else. I mean, I like gameplay too, but I also know when a game isn't trying to be that way. Sister Location is perfectly set up for one playthrough, and I love it for that. Alright, now we're back to the game. So we transition into the elevator, and we get what is probably one of the most random bits I have ever seen in a game that is not directly comedy. So to avoid getting stale, Hand Unit offers a selection of new companion voices to aid you on the job. But because we've already established last time that the keypad doesn't work, we get randomly selected Angsty Teen. What?
The elevator stopped. You know the routine. You can get out now or whatever. Stay here if you want.
Okay, but in all seriousness, this move is genius. Let me explain.
So, funny story. A dead body was found in this vent once. Okay, so not that funny, but it's a story.
Great, so now even the vents aren't safe. Lovely. But because Hand Unit is so, like, corporate and safe normally, he would never have said that. But since the tone has to match an angsty teen, he gets to slip in this little random dark factoid. But hold on to that fact because this has layers to it. He tells us to check on Ballora and Foxy again like we did in Night 1, except they are way closer to the glass, reinforcing how unsafe the glass really feels. Their silhouettes look like they're ready to just jump through and end your life without a flicker of consideration. What's worse is that instead of resetting them completely, you get this. I don't know if I'm alone in this train of thought, but when I first heard that, I didn't think, oh, voice malfunction. I thought, oh no, something's wrong, I'm in danger, eee. Those noises in this situation are just so weird. So the Angsty Teen voice malfunctions, giving us the classic Hand Unit back. And again, great pacing because Angsty Teen is a bit that can only stay so long before it becomes unwelcome. Back to the circus gallery we go, just like Night 1. Except this time, the controlled shock doesn't work and Hand Unit has to reset the power.
Commencing system restart.
This is the most unsafe we have been, period. Remember the vent motion detection voice?
Motion trigger. Entryway vent. Funtime Auditorium maintenance vent opened.
Yeah, so add that to the fact that the Angsty Teen let us know that a body was once found in the vent and we have moved from implied danger to legitimate danger. But as if from the heavens, a new voice arrives to give us guidance.
I don't recognize you. You are new. I remember this scenario, however.
So Circus Baby now becomes a new voice of reason in the chaos of Hand Unit's world. She gives us introductions on how to hide from the oncoming threat so we can hear crawling through the vents while Hand Unit resets. Again, never truly feeling safe is this game's greatest strength for atmosphere. Every sound is an unconfirmed threat. But in this case, it's an active threat, so we hide under the desk and... Okay, wow, never mind. I'd rather just dodge standing up. I'm good. No, I'm good. This is the first time we get actual gameplay. And to say the very least, it's not particularly engaging. You hold left click on this piece of metal to keep yourself hidden. It's easy, but again, that's kind of the point. I'll talk about this more in the next section, but once the little gremlin sounding dudes leave, Circus Baby tells us exactly what the Hand Unit is going to tell us when he comes back online. It's like she's seen this a million times already. She says we follow his instructions, we're dead. Hand Unit will say to crawl through Ballora's area as fast as we can, but Baby tells us to be patient, not make too much noise. So I don't know about anybody else, but my first time, I overthought this like crazy. Is Baby lying? Is Hand Unit lying? I don't know. What do either have to gain from lying? That uncertainty can only be caused by panic, which can only be caused by a good atmosphere, pacing, and direction that leaves me second guessing everything. So before I move on to the next gameplay section, I have to compliment the voice of Circus Baby, Heather Masters. And no, I don't just remember the name off the top of my head because of the obvious pun on the table. Nope, not at all. I don't know how to say this without sounding weird, but Circus Baby's voice is like perfect because of a few factors that all mesh together. So based on her design, she's obviously the singer, the star, if you will. So I can picture this voice being a good singer. So her voice is like smooth and inviting enough for stage presence, but the way she talks slowly with purpose just also makes her creepy. She knows everything, but her voice is like still weirdly inviting. I don't know, okay, look. Only someone who mastered their voice could pull this off. Yes, I only said that to get the pun out of the way. Shut up. So yeah, hard to tell whether she's directly evil or not, but in the meantime, she is helping us to survive. But I still love how confusing and intriguing it is in a life or death situation. You have to make a pretty quick decision who you're gonna trust. And just like Baby said, hand unit tells us to crawl through Ballora's gallery to reset the power manually. So here we go with one of our bigger cases for game intent. Ballora's gallery. Your character is low on the ground, crawling through as quietly as possible, while Ballora roams in elegance through her territory with the creepy sounds of a music box. This is the perfect example of fear as an instinct. You can barely see anything around you, the idea of crossing an entire room sounds pretty big at first, and this is your first time being this close to one of the main performers here. So it's hard to not feel overwhelmed your first time. It's more than enough to get your nerves going, but yes, as many will tell you, it's insanely easy. It's glorified red light, green light. Let me tell ye a tale as old as time itself. When you lose consistently in a horror game, it stops being scary. Now that may sound kind of obvious, but people don't seem to consider this with Sister Location, despite the fact that Sister Location itself contains both ends of the spectrum, but we'll get to that later. If you go into a section of any horror game full of fear, and then you die, it'll startle you, make you scream, punch your monitor, commit hate crimes, what have you. But if you die again, it will be less so. And then again. And then again, you get the picture. So let me ask you this. If your primary goal as a game dev is immersion, would you take the too easy route? Or would you try to sort of risk it and try to go for the perfect in-between? Trust me, too easy is the choice. Imagine if any of the Fears to Fathom games each had like 3 or 4 opportunities to die, but each time relied on some weird amount of foreknowledge to get you out of danger, so you would die 2, 3, maybe 4 times per encounter. That would ruin the whole experience. Layers of Fear kind of does this too, except you can turn entity deaths off entirely, which probably says something about the game design. This happens in every horror game ever made. Dead Space, Amnesia, Alien Isolation. It's just how horror works, man. So if you have died to Ballora here, the fear factor would be lowered. The game tries to use your survival instinct to do the dirty work. So believe me, for a game like this, easy is the way to go because you're not going to be replaying it anyways in theory. So once we're past Ballora, we get to the maintenance room, and holy moly, I hate this. This part is disturbing. Basically, you have to reset the powers of the building, but as you do, Funtime Freddy gets closer and closer in the dark. He can get close enough to the point of real fear. Last time I played this, I got a little impatient and died, and it actually scared me. That's not because the section is difficult though, it's easy as long as you actually fear and respect the threat. It's just that I was so used to it that I did neither of those. So there's no limit on the device that lets you reset Freddy, so it's a matter of finding that sweet spot between making progress and defending yourself. And you have unlimited tries to do so. Having a simple survival instinct is really the best defense you can have in this game. But my favorite part of the night is after you reset the power, and Freddy mysteriously vanishes. That's creepy. But anyways, my favorite part is when you have to go back through Ballora's gallery. Most games would probably insult your intelligence here by making you do the same thing as when you first came in, except now you have to get out. But no.
Is someone there? I can hear someone creeping through my room. Perhaps not.
That's a brilliant subversion. That is seriously top tier. There's no more audio to help you predict her location. She's just there in the dark. Whew. Looks like the night is over though. So let's take a break from game and horror design philosophies for a second, shall we? Alright. If you don't like Sister Location, that's fine. I've already said this stuff. Genuinely. But I do want you to think about something. One video. One influential opinion. One MatPat agreement. That's all it took from this game to go from forgotten to like kinda weirdly hated. That's not a criticism of any one particular person. That's just kinda how influencers work. And we're all susceptible to it. I've done it. Myself included. I just hope that this made you question whether that opinion was fully your own or whether you inherited it from somebody else. That's really all I'm asking for with this whole video. And hey, if you don't have a reason, just say you don't like it. I don't care. But to avoid arguing with people, don't lie about why. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Alright, so since the breakdown of the game is all that's left to cover today, let's try to be a bit more snappy. So I've talked about how horror can be effectively aided by humor, so I'm not going to keep talking about every single funny moment with the hand unit. but I'd be crazy to not shout out the casual bongos and the exotic butters. Absolute gems. Peak cinema. I also love how it gets crazier every time you turn the lights on for the animatronic rooms. It just sells the idea that these things are deteriorating or just crazy and unhinged. Except when Hand Unit tells you to check for Funtime Foxy and no one's there, he acts like everything is alright. Great. Though to be fair, I don't think resetting Foxy would have actually helped much in this situation. I just realized that on my recent playthrough. But before that, let's take a little detour. You're allowed to visit Circus Baby again. It's not required, but it's interesting to hear her talk about her first time on stage. Again, how much can you really trust her? Like, nowadays we know she's evil, duh. But we didn't know this when the game first came out. She was a completely new character. And the idea of an animatronic communicating with you at all was, like, so foreign and weird. It was almost nice to have something that belonged to the same family but didn't actively try to kill us. All that to say, though, I'm not sure anyone fully trusted her. Maybe someone did, I don't know. I didn't really know what to think the first time. I was just going with the flow. So back in the main room, we're told to make it across the Funtime Auditorium to fix Freddy and parts and service. To say the least, Funtime Auditorium is horrifying. I know saying that you're scared of the dark may sound kind of simple and not really like anything, but it's more about not being able to see something that you just know is there right in front of you. I would tell you to imagine, but you don't need to. You step through the complete darkness with nothing but a flash beacon offering just moments of relief in sight. Or panic, based on what you see. Funtime Foxy is a menace in the dark. It's like you're walking through a dark forest that you know has predators much more powerful than you, but you just can't see them. This part is certainly a little more difficult than Night 2, but not by much. You have to keep an ear open for any noise. If you hear something, hit the beacon, react accordingly. Walking through the dark with a monster isn't exactly a sister location special, but it's effective. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Now Funtime Freddy is what I'm talking about. In the past, our only close contact with animatronics was jump scares, but now we have to fix one in person. For how important this iteration is in all of Five Nights at Freddy's, it goes criminally ignored. Sitting right in front of you keeps this thing on edge the whole time. Every click, button, action you take, it makes you scared that he's going to instantly respond without any preparation. And with fatal results. Now there is one little problem that people have with this section, and that's when Bon Bon gets away. So this is one of those things that's not hard, but it's easy to mess up in a way that's weird. So you have to find Bon Bon with the edge of your flashlight to not scare him off, and then click the big black button. And yet sometimes he just doesn't show up properly. Not like in a buggy way, just as an AI thing. I did recently go back and beat this just to jog my memory, and I did get it on my first try, just like I did when I first played it. But I wasn't sure what all the scuttling noises were about, so maybe this part will bug you, but it's still not that bad. My success rate on it without dying is still pretty high, so I'm just going to chalk this up to skill issue. I don't know. The bad part is that you have to do Funtime Foxy again if you fail Freddy. So that's not fun. This is only one of like 2 potential marks against the game as a whole, but again, mileage may vary, and this is such an important moment in FNAF history that deserves respect. So just like Night 2, Scott doesn't insult us by making us do Foxy again. This is actually great, because the game has been pretty easy up to this point, and you may haven't even seen a jump scare yet. So despite playing quote-unquote correctly, you still get that experience. Hey, post-editing fan here, I just wanted to let you know real quick, I'm just going to be lazy and copy-paste my original version of this Night 4 segment into the video, because I still kind of like it. I will warn you though, the framing was different, so in that case, I'm going to refer to things like a difficulty problem or challenge consistency. That's because the framing of the old video was different from this one. My opinions haven't changed, it's just that the framing was different, so it'll sound like I'm, referring to things I never talked about. Not really true, it's just different framing. So, been warned, but I still kind of like this little meme segment that I put in here, so enjoy. See you on Night 5. Baby kidnaps us, locks us in an animatronic suit with familiar contraptions, and lets us witness the scooping room. You can't see much, but Baby's description is very ominous.
Do you know why they call it the scooping room? It's because, dummy, this is the room where they use the scooper.
This is one of the scariest parts in the whole game in my opinion. Horror is subjective, so if you think another part is scarier, you're not wrong, but it's pitch black, that red light from the camera is ominous, and Ballora is straight up creepy. Then she gets scooped. and now she's looking right at you. It feels like something can just jump out at you in an instant. The whole game feels like that, honestly. It's part of the reason it's so scary. Baby warns us to keep the spring lock stable, so it's likely to continue the trend of being too easy, unfortunately. You're basically holding left click on these things, so let's get it over with.
I'm going to kill your entire ancestry. Don't look at me like that.
Okay, what the crap is this? Like I said, this game has a difficulty problem. I never said it was all too easy. This night is stupid. You're not given enough information at all, and even when you do know what you're doing, it's still hard enough to require very minimal mistakes. I would not be surprised if this has ended a lot of people's run-through of this game. The mini arenas crawling into and up your suit are extremely deceptive. They're creepy at first, but swiftly become annoying. The middle ones actually do nothing. That's part of the deception. It's the ones on the side that you have to worry about. If one reaches the top, you die. That's what the wiggle mechanic is for, but careful, wiggling loosens the spring locks. That's there to keep you from just spamming the button over and over again. They also loosen faster over time anyways. This night sucks, and there's a lot of guides on it. What should have been one of the most scary nights in the game quickly became one of the franchise's most infamous, all for the right reasons. But I'd be lying if I said the atmosphere wasn't still top-notch. The problem is, when your game has extremely inconsistent difficulty, especially a horror game, you'll lose the intended tone and it'll be replaced with boredom or frustration. These are two feelings you don't want the player to feel, ever. Period. I personally have experienced a lot of this in horror games, and depending on the gameplay loop, either of these feelings can kill a game completely. Like in Alien Isolation or Resident Evil 7, the gameplay loop is a backup for when the game stops being scary, and they will. It's inevitable. Most horror games stop being scary at some point, obviously, but Sister Location doesn't have much of a backup, outside the atmosphere and story if you even care about that. Let me make this clear. The horror is important, but it's still a video game. Get your challenge as consistent as possible, or at the very least, take the Amnesia the Dark Descent approach and use some really good smoke and mirrors tactics to keep a game scary. So after Baby lets us go, we have one of the best climaxes in all of Five Nights at Freddy's when we return. Hand Unit says that 2 technicians haven't left the building yet. I'm sure they're fine.
Oh my goodness!
You know, as much as I'm not putting on some big grandiose reaction, this was the first time ever that FNAF had gone this explicitly dark. I remember everyone having pretty intense and funny reactions to this one, and it's a great way to bring a finale to the lights and the animatronic rooms getting crazier every time. Since I've gone over how good the horror is in this game, I'm going to treat most of this as a summary and just go over the unique stuff. So what's unique about going back through Funtime Auditorium is that there's no one in there. The game tricks you by giving you a flash beacon, but you don't need it. That's because all the animatronics except Baby have been scooped and merged into Ennard. It's pretty cool. Circus Baby basically uses her own deadened form to trick you into being put in front of the scooper. Each step to this plan is done with familiar yet horrifying sequences that use perfect audio. This is unscripted. The audio in this night is so good. Each step to this plan is done with familiar yet horrifying sequences like walking in the same room as Ennard in pitch blackness, or taking Baby apart in the parts and service room. Again, it's all very easy, but as previously explained, it's all for the sake of the goal: immersion and terror. Okay, one more thing, and we'll be done here. So people love to say Sister Location has no replay value. Interesting, because when you beat Night 1 through 6 in the original FNAF, what are you going back for? 420 mode? Okay, that's cool. But Sister Location has probably the best custom night in all of FNAF, with its own endings and challenge modes. So for the same price as every other game, you're actually getting more hours of playtime. So when people say Sister Location has no replay value, what they're saying is that they just don't have a reason to replay it, which is fine, I guess, but that's personal preference. It's not Sister Location's fault. Every game in this franchise has the same standard, but for some reason Sister Location just gets it differently? I don't know. But hey, I hope you enjoyed revisiting Sister Location with me. Subscribe for horror stuff. Probably more FNAF stuff, because why not? Yeet.